finally got some sleep, Rube. I'm feeling good.
Yeah, I did not envy you traveling home in the middle of the night. How did the travels go?
It went fine. It's long flights and it's just a lot of travel time, but the actual flights were fine. I was lucky, I guess. Every flight I had was on time, no major delays. So yeah, I made it. I'm back. And now it's really kind of football season for me because I was so like preoccupied with this trip that football kind of took a little bit of a back seat for me.
Well, they won.
Well, I know that. Yeah.
Just
I
think.
I did get a chance to watch that. This is the Eagle Eye podcast presented by Nissan. He's Reuben Frank. I'm Dave Zangaro. Today's a good day. We have a little bit of extra time this week because of the Monday night game after a Friday game. So we had an extra couple of days to really dig into that season opening win. So today we'll spend some time talking about what was good, what was bad, what we think is encouraging going forward, what we might be a little worried about with this team. We do have a little bit of news to get to in a little bit. We have some questions from listeners, and I believe the initial Hall of Fame, what are they? Not even semifinalists. What do they call them?
It's the seniors committee nominees were announced
Okay.
just minutes ago. So some interesting former Eagles on there. Still long shots, but some interesting candidates.
Okay, cool. We'll get into those a little bit later. But like I mentioned, I had a chance to actually watch the game, the TV copy, and then the tape was out too. So I actually got to watch it because it was tough. My vantage point, I mentioned on the post game pod, just we were kind of up in the corner of the stadium. So a lot of what we said, I think, after the game holds true, but there are some differences.
Yeah, there are. And the benefit of hindsight, you kind of start looking at some things differently when you have a chance to really. I mean, we're doing the pod minutes after the game ends, maybe an hour after the game ends. So I think there's some things maybe I was a little too harsh on, and I think the field conditions, I probably didn't take that into account enough. I think that probably really affected the edge rushers. I don't know if they would have had 7 sacks on a normal field. We'll see. We'll get a body of work over the next few weeks, but I saw a lot of guys slipping, and even on Jalen's second interception, AJ slipped. I still think it wasn't a very smart throw. I still don't think AJ would have been open if he hadn't slipped, but the field was definitely more of a factor. And I wrote about it off the game in my obs, but I think it was even more of a factor than I initially realized. So I think that's something we got to consider too.
Yeah, not even as far as like assigning blame, but just the evaluation of these guys. Yeah, I think it's, and you have to remember it goes both ways too. So if we're not going to ding the pass rushers for getting there, then everything the offensive line did, we have to have the caveat of, well, the footing of the other team wasn't great either. So yeah, I agree. You watch that game back and guys are slipping all over the field. So I think there were definitely issues that you have to think about.
Yeah, and shame on the NFL we just went through this in Glendale 2 years ago. Shame on the NFL for they were so intent on having this game there, and they played it on a field that was unsuitable for football. It's a shame.
It is. And, like everything else about the experience is really cool. And then to have a game that's not great. But I guess that shouldn't be a surprise. I mean, they played a Super Bowl on a field that wasn't good. So, and from my understanding, it's like a soccer pitch is a little different than a football field because you don't have 350-pound guys trying to get traction. Soccer field, you kind of want, you have lighter guys kind of gliding across a pitch. It's a little different. So maybe that field was fine for soccer, but for American football, it left a lot to be desired.
And we were told that the Eagles head groundskeeper was down there and said the field was perfectly fine. So somewhere there was disconnect because it was not.
It was not. Yeah. All right. Where do you want to start? Just go offense. We'll take some offensive stuff and then we'll go to defense, make this simple on ourselves.
Yeah.
All right. Offense. Let's talk about the offensive line because after the game, it's so quick. If you're not noticing the offensive line, it's probably a good sign. And that was true in this one. I thought Mekhi Becton and Cam Jurgens, the two guys who are really we wanted to watch in this game, I thought they both played really well. I was really impressed by Becton.
Becton was really good. He really used his size well, his power. He's such a powerful guy. That was his first start ever. I mean, this is a guy who never even practiced at guard before the spring. I was really impressed as well, especially pass blocking. I mean, he was, it's almost like having an extra tackle out there. He's just he was so good. I thought I didn't know. I really didn't know what to expect from him. The fact that Stout almost wasted no time getting him to guard. And I mean, as soon as Tyler Steen got hurt, it was like, they couldn't wait to get Becton in there. When Jeff Stoutland is that bullish on a player, generally he's right. I mean, maybe always he's right. Becton was terrific. And I thought Cam, other than the snaps, I thought Cam was really good as well. And he's played center before, but it was his first NFL start at center. He's only played like 30 snaps at center in his career. So, and then you have both of them next to each other, which kind of compounds the fact that they're both in new spots. I thought they played really well together. I thought the whole O-line was really good. I mean, they had 410 yards, scored 34 points. And we talked about like the things that went wrong and the turnovers. I mean, if they don't have that one turnover, they might have scored, they would have scored 3 or 7 there. They could have scored 40 points very easily. And had, well over 400 yards. So I thought the offense, I might have been a little too harsh on Jalen on the offense. But as far as the O-line, really encouraging. For that to be the first game post Jason Kelsey, really encouraging.
Yeah, I agree. We saw the size of Becton is just, it pops, seeing a guard that big and that strong. And then Cam, like his ability to get to the next level, that was showing. And both tackles played really well, other than the snap where Lane Johnson thought he was offside. It was, like that play aside, he was just a brick wall. He's still playing at a really high level. Jordan Mailata on the other side was great. Landon early, maybe he was having some like footing issues, but overall, I thought the line was really good.
Yeah. And I mean, that was maybe my biggest question coming in. Kind of maybe tied with the edge position, but certainly the biggest question on the offense once they got Dotson kind of, addressed the third wideout. O-line, interior of the O-line was my biggest question, and they played really well.
Yeah, and look, I
guess a good front. I mean, Kenny Clark did nothing in that game.
Yeah, and there were a few blocks where it was like combo blocks with Becton and Jurgens, and they haven't worked. They've worked a little bit together in the summer, but it's not like the other side where you have, a guy like Mailata and Dickerson who have all these reps together. So I thought they played really well.
Yeah, no doubt.
You mentioned that they scored all these points. You're right. I mean, that's kind of the beauty of how good this offense can be, is that they still had some really bad mistakes. Early on, they were completely out of whack. You had those awful Jalen turnovers, which they were just as bad on rewatch, I thought. But you're still able to score because you can throw the ball to A.J. Brown and then he takes it 67 yards. And you can rely on a Saquon Barkley who just was phenomenal in that game. I think Jalen didn't want to go there after the game, but he was basically asked, like, I mean, you guys screwed up a lot, but you still scored a lot of points. And he didn't want to take it to that extreme. But yeah, like this offense has elite potential. And even though they struggled a little bit with certain things, I think that really shone through because they still put up points despite all the mistakes.
Yeah, they had 3 70-yard touchdown drives and 2 other 60-yard scoring drives. They're the only team in the NFL with 5 scoring drives of at least 60 yards in week 1. So something was working on offense. And, it just kind of tells you, like, where will this offense be if they don't turn the ball over? It's very rare to score 34 points when you turn the ball over 3 times. And one inside the 10. I think it's only the 3rd time in the last 20 years Eagles have done that. So this tells you when they're clean on offense, what's it going to look like? And Green Bay's got a pretty good defense. They were top 10 in points allowed. They were 10th in points allowed last year. Different team, but they're very good defensively. So when you take into account the slippery field and the O-line in their first game, 2 of the guys, and 3 turnovers, 2 interceptions, to score 34 points, it's pretty impressive. Especially look around the league, weren't a lot of points scored. it was a very low scoring, like a historically low scoring week one. I'm not sure why. I'm not sure if it's just a fluke or anything, but I want to go through some of the numbers later, but it's kind of crazy what a low scoring week was. Jalen was one of only two quarterbacks in the league to throw for 275 yards and 2 touchdowns. Baker Mayfield was the other one. And I know it's like, how was the play other than that Mrs. Lincoln type thing, but Jalen really did some very good things other than those 2 picks, and some long scoring drives, and obviously made some really good throws and one good run on that 7.5-minute drive at the end. So I don't think it was a complete disaster for Jalen. After the game, I felt like it was, but he did do some good things.
Yeah, it wasn't a complete disaster. There were definitely some good moments for him. You mentioned those throws at the end of the game to Devontae Smith were great. That run, the kind of got to have it run to get the first down on that long drive.
Yeah.
Really impressed by that. The throw to AJ, that was not simple. He had to look off the safety before releasing that ball. So I thought there were some good moments. I mean, the second interception, it's still bad. I think there was like a very limited window for him to throw that football. He's like right at the hash. And if he throws it immediately, I know AJ slips, and that's probably why he doesn't throw it immediately, but you just have to know better to not release that football when you're going across your body into the end zone in a moment where, 3 points puts you up 8. You need to not throw that football. So, yeah,
no, I couldn't agree more. And I thought the first interception was just as bad. I mean, to float it into, there are like 4 Packers around the ball.
That one to me wasn't as bad. It wasn't good. I thought it was a pretty good defense by the Packers. At first, Jalen thought he had a mismatch inside. So, it wasn't good. I thought the second one was egregious.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I thought they were both egregious, and I'm certainly not defending those plays, and it's something he's got to fix. I guess I just want to point out that there were some good things as well.
So what's the temperature on Jalen right now? Because right after the game, I think that was kind of lingering for me. It's like it looked like the 2023 version of Jalen Hurts, which is not good enough, right? But now that you've had a couple of days away from it, where are you on number 1 entering week 2?
I guess I feel a little better just because, I mean, until really the middle of last year, interceptions weren't a problem. I still feel like it's fixable. And he did enough other good things. I mean, they won the game. And people keep comparing him to Carson. This is like Carson in his 5th year. Carson doesn't win that game. I mean, Jalen made the throws at the end of that game to win it. And Carson in his 5th year was making plays to lose games. And I don't think there's any comparison. Plus the fact that we've seen Jalen play at a very high level in the postseason, in a Super Bowl. And Carson has 3 career postseason passing yards, past to Boston Scott before he got hurt. So I just don't see it. I don't like that comparison. Yes, he's thrown too many picks, but he won the game. He put up 34 points, and those are things Carson wasn't doing in 2020. But yeah, he's got to figure out a way to stop. Look, if there were great plays by the defense, diving interceptions, that's one thing. But these were both just completely avoidable turnovers. So he's got to stop doing it. But the fact that, I mean, the Eagles trailed 4 times in that game, and he rallied them back into the lead all 4 times. That does show me something. So I think I gave him a D. We do report cards now on the post-game show. I think I gave him a D. I'd probably raise that to a C+.
I think I was between a C+ or a B- for him. Yeah, and certainly, like, you win the game, you get a bump up. That's especially for the quarterback position.
Yeah. I mean, we're sitting there on the set, 30 seconds after the game ends, and somebody's handing me a ballot to do all my grades. I'm like, I don't know. I just don't even know what just happened. But I think I feel better about him than I did. I like that he was accountable. He knows he's got to be better, but we got to see it.
Yeah, the one little concern I have is, in this offense, he shouldn't feel the need to press the way he did. Like, I understood it in a way last year because you looked at the scheme and there just weren't a lot of answers. It was a lot of, our guys are going to beat your guys and Jalen's going to throw them the football. And some of that is still true, right? Like you still have AJ Brown, and there are still opportunities he gets a one-on-one, you throw it up to him. Like for the most part, you live with those plays because he's going to bring them down. But this offense with the talent and the scheme, Jalen shouldn't feel the need to like put it all on his back and try to make these Superman plays. So kind of curious to see where it goes, because I feel like he should have a command of this offense based on what we saw all summer. And I'm not ready to just like push the panic button after week 1, but it's on my radar. Like he can't make those decisions. And I'm worried about, like, if he gets in game situations, does he revert to something that we didn't see all summer? Too early to say that, but it's on my radar.
Yeah. And I think you make a great point, because I think that's why people make that Carson comparison, because Carson was trying to play hero ball too much in the year. It all fell apart for him. He was forcing things. He kind of had to. I mean, but that's the one thing that Jalen kind of is doing that Carson did is the hero ball stuff, trying to make plays he doesn't need to make. It's not like you're down 17 points with 4 minutes left. So, that I think that's why there's so much concern. But yeah, we'll see. We'll see over these next few weeks if he gets that fixed. To win that game with 3 turnovers is, it's rare. It just doesn't happen. You're just not going to win many games doing that.
Yeah, you're asking for it in a way if you have a turnover differential like that. I will say, the blitz was a big topic coming into this game. They handled it really well against the Packers. It looked like Jalen was in command with his hots, which is what you wanted to see. I expected to see more pressure coming their way. I thought the Packers' game plan was a little questionable.
Yeah.
I'd assume that over the next few weeks, we'll see that dialed up a little bit, because even Jalen after the game kind of mentioned that he knows it's coming. That's kind of the book on him, is whether it's right or wrong. That's what the league thinks, is if you blitz this guy, you can beat him. So he's going to see it. We certainly know he's going to see it when they face the Buccaneers, but the other games too. Like I think teams are going to try to heat him up, and the Packers really didn't do it as much as I expected. But when there were some blitzes, I thought they handled them fine.
Yeah, I think the Packers kind of feel like with their D-line, maybe they don't need to. They have a pretty formidable group up front. But, boy, after last year, after the Tampa game, I would have blitzed a lot just to see if they're ready to handle it and how much they've improved, if at all. So I didn't really get that. For a guy who's had the best record of active coaches until Friday, I wasn't super impressed by the play calling on both sides. By the Packers.
They have a new DC.
Yeah.
In Green Bay.
I think it was a particularly well-coached game.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, certainly teams are going to start coming after him more than they did Friday.
Yeah. We'll get into Vic Fangio when we talk about defense, but Kellen Moore, I was impressed by his first game. We've got asked questions for months about how different is this offense going to look. Yeah, it looked different, right? I mean, just the motion alone, which is I wonder if it bothers Nick Sirianni a little bit that it's been such they were dead last in pre-snap motion last year, and they ran it a lot in this game. It was very funny. It was the first question.
It was great.
Nick was asked in Brazil by a Brazilian reporter was about
the day before the game.
Yeah, the day before the game, about pre-snap motion, but they ran it a lot and it was effective in this game.
It was so funny to hear this guy in this thick Portuguese accent asking English about pre-snap motion. The very first question after they get off the plane, it was tremendous. I figured maybe like Elliott put him up to it or something, but I thought, especially the way the game started with the interception and the bad snap or the miscommunication on the snap. It was ugly. I think they had -1 yard after their first 2 drives. There was no panic. And I like what I saw from Kellen Moore. They really distributed it. They were really balanced. Nick said, some days AJ is going to be the bell cow, some days Saquon, some days Devontae. It was all 3 of them. They were Goddard caught 4 passes, but it was really those 3 guys carried the load. They had almost all the offense's yards. So,
and Goddard's the one was he had that explosive That was a big play.
It was. Yeah, it was a good play.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's one of the most encouraging things is that, they still have just so much star power on the offensive side, and all those guys looked good in this game.
Yeah. Yeah, it was I was impressed. I was impressed with everything on offense except the mistakes that Jalen made. Really everything else. And Cam, I think part of that's on Cam, certainly with the snaps. Something he's got to work on.
Yeah, that one, not that I'm giving it a pass, but that doesn't worry me much.
Oh, it doesn't worry me, but it's something he's got to be aware of, certainly.
Yeah, I wasn't saying it worried you. I was just saying it doesn't worry me.
Okay.
Some other notes I have down, I jotted down after rewatching. I didn't actually write about AJ Brown, but the one play that kind of sticks in my brain, aside from the him just beating Jair Alexander on that 67-yarder, there was another play on the left sideline where he catches the ball, turns his body quickly, and gets upfield and gets the first down. That's something that Devontae's always been really good at. It's just like knowing instinctively which way to turn your body. AJ's really good at it too, but that play stood out to me a lot. Devontae at the end of the game, watching those back again is just really fun.
Yeah.
AJ's stat line was better, but man, Devontae was so clutch. And he always has been.
Always has been. And yeah, I mean, 84 yards seems like, okay, he had an okay day, and he also had that short catch on a fourth down earlier, which was a huge play. He may never have the numbers that AJ has, but he's so good. I think he's capable of it. Certainly, he's capable of a 1,200-yard season. There's something about him, and I just to have two wide receivers who are that good. I mean, sometimes you're asking for trouble because of wide receiver egos, and they want the ball and they need their stats. And there's a little bit of that in AJ, there's no question, but they get along so well that I think it really kind of protects the Eagles from any real problems. If one of them goes off and the other one doesn't really get the ball much, it's going to bother both of them. AJ will let on more, but the fact that they are so close and they respect each other so much. I mean, their kids talk on the phone with each other. I think it puts them in a really good place.
Johnny Wilson blocked his butt off every time he was out there.
Yeah.
That was fun to watch. That was all I had at receiver. At running back, your guy Kenny Gainwell didn't get a ton of reps, but that one pass reception that was really nifty.
Yeah, and that one and the Goddard first down, I think they were both on the left sideline. Kind of reminded me of each other because they both look like guys who knew they weren't getting the ball much and really wanted to prove on that snap that I can make plays here. They both ran angry with the ball and got past the sticks. It was cool. I wonder what did Saquon have? 24 carries and 2 catches?
Yeah, 26 touches.
And a lot of that was just the way the game went. And I wouldn't change the play calling. I don't think it was too much. It's going to be too much if it happens every day. I still think Gainwell should be mixed in there a little more. There's no reason to take out Saquon if he's feeling good and if he's productive. So I don't have a problem with it. I just don't want 26 carries every week or 26 touches.
Yeah, and it naturally, I think that won't happen. But I did ask Nick about how they're going to manage him a little bit.
Yeah,
and he said it really happens in practice. They'll take some load off of him during the week, which makes some sense because in the game, it's really tough to take him off the field. Yeah. There was the one series where they went to Gainwell, and I had 50 people on social media asking me, "Is Saquon hurt?" Apparently, it looked like maybe he got hurt and he was standing on the sideline, but no, there are going to be times where they're going to just need to get him off the field a little bit. Yeah. But it's you'd notice it because he's so dynamic when he's out there.
Yeah, and that's what I asked Kellen, I think, whenever we talked to him last week. How do you balance, he's such a weapon, how do you balance that with being smart, and not overusing him? And there's no guidebook on this. 18 touches, 22 touches, 26 touches. It's just going to depend on the game and constant communication between the player and the coaches, and just be smart and use some common sense about it.
And his touches, they're not light touches. He's fighting through contact.
Yeah.
it's one of the reasons they really wanted him. And it really did show up in the first game. His extra yards are there. I mean, he is tough to bring down. He's picking up nothing against DeAndre Swift, but he's picking up the tough yards a guy like DeAndre Swift or even Miles Sanders a couple of years ago just couldn't do.
Yeah. And I'd also like to see if he's going to have 26 touches, I think it might make more sense to split him up more between like 20 runs and 6 catches. I think he's such a good receiver. I mean, a 5-yard run's a great play. He can get 5 yards on a pass anytime they want. And I think you're going to take less pounding if you're catching the ball. So a lot less. So not complaining about it. I thought Kellen called a great game, but just something to kind of watch moving forward.
I mentioned this, I think, on the post-game pod, but I really like their little 21 personnel package.
Yeah.
Will Shipley was in motion on all 4. It was only 4 snaps, but he was in motion on all 4 of those snaps. And he drew some coverage to him. Like, there were eyes on Will Shipley. Now, eventually he's going to have to produce a little bit to keep that going, but it worked. Like, there was the one play he cleared out. It was the Devontae Smith ball down the sideline. It was because the nickel had to go with Shipley, and then the linebacker froze, and it created the throwing lane for Devontae. And then I think it was the next play, Jalen gets a nice gain because Shipley motions out and the linebacker goes with him.
Who'd have thought Will Shipley would be the world's best decoy in his first game of his life?
I like that 21 personnel package.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see how much they use it. It seemed to be productive.
Yeah, I mean, they barely used it at all last year, so
right.
They're going to use it more. I think last year they had 25 plays over the course of a season.
Yeah.
They had 4 in the opener.
Yeah. So on pace for 68.
It's good math out of you. All right, let's take a break, and we will talk some defense on the other side.
You deserve a car that thrills you, a car that puts goosebumps on your goosebumps. At Nissan, we got everything from turbocharged SUVs to 100% electric vehicles that'll make your heart beat faster. Experience the thrill for yourself and shop your local Nissan store at nissanusa.com today.
Celebrity cook Steve Martorano brings his Italian-American cooking back home to Philly. Enjoy Martorano's Prime at Rivers Casino and Steve's famous meatballs with Sunday gravy, prime steaks, and more. Make reservations at Martorano's Prime on Open Table. All right, we're back. Let's start on defense with, I think, the question I've been asked most. It's about the pass rush. And specifically, Bryce Huff had a very quiet debut. They pay this guy $17 million per season over the next 3 years. What do you make of it? Any concern there?
Yeah. Plenty concerned when 36-year-old Brandon Graham, who's on a farewell tour, gets more snaps. And we kind of, after talking to Vic the other day, and talking to BG, I guess the last day of availability, whenever that was, Tuesday of last week, BG says, I'm going to play a lot. And he played well. I mean, if your 36-year-old guy on a retirement tour is getting more snaps than your big free agent and playing better, that's a big concern. And it's only one game, and the field was a little slippery. But the fact that he didn't play that much is like, I thought he was going to be. I mean, I thought he was going to be playing 70% of the snaps. What was he at, 48, something like that? So yeah, what was his snap percentage? You're Mr. Snap Count.
Believe it or not, I didn't memorize all the snap counts.
I'm really shocked, actually. 45%. So he played 30 snaps. 45% is only marginally more than he played last year. He played 42% with the Jets, and the whole thing was this new role, playing against the run, playing every down or more downs, and really it was just a repeat of last year. It's concerning.
Yeah, and you start to add it all up, right? You have the Vic Fangio comment from the summer, like he's not ready to do it now. Hopefully he will be. Then you have him playing in the preseason. And then the first game of the season, he plays the fourth most snaps of the edge players. And Josh Sweat, he got a full workload. Josh Sweat played 61%. So the other starter played a lot more. I think it is telling. And Nick Sirianni's answer to this was, he only had a couple fewer than the other guys. It's not a big deal. Sometimes it's the flow of the game and all that. But yeah, if you look through the context of this whole offseason, though, I think it is notable. And I'm not even talking about the production or lack of production, because we can explain that away by the field. But yeah, I think there is something to the idea that Vic Fangio doesn't fully trust this guy yet.
Yeah. I don't see how you can disagree with that statement. If he trusted him, he would have played more than 45% of the snaps. Pretty simple.
Yeah, and he can get there. Like, I'm not saying he won't get there by some point, but yeah, I think that was one of the things that stood out most when you look at the snap counts from that game. Is like, let's pay this guy $17 million a year, and you're right, the 36-year-old guy on the farewell tour is playing more. It catches your eye a little bit.
Yeah,
because it's not like you would expect him to be way above the other two.
Yeah, and that's like, I don't think I mean, maybe he'll grow into this role, but I don't think you give him that contract if he's not already there. If he's not already, because now you're just projecting, well, we think he can become that. Just paid him $50 million because you think he can become that. I mean, Howie's got a pretty good track record on big money free agents, but I don't think it's too early to wonder exactly what's happening.
Yeah, and look, I think 17 mil sounds like a lot for an edge rusher. It really isn't. Like, it's good money. It's not elite money. So, like, if they're hoping
45% of the snaps is a lot.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. But I'm saying in terms of, like, it's not like they paid him a top end of the market deal. They paid him as kind of like an average starting edge rusher salary, maybe a little above average. But I think there's enough on Bryce Huff to think he's going to be a solid player, right? Can he be a difference maker? Can he be an every down type of player? We don't know that yet.
Yeah. I'm not convinced he can be an average player. I'm just looking where he ranks among edges. Anyway, I'll find that. But yeah, you're probably right. I didn't see any sign of that Friday, but the field was certainly a factor. He's a guy I'm going to really be watching Monday night and moving forward here these next few weeks. A, for the production, and B, for the playing time. See if it starts going up.
He is 17th in the league among edge rushers in APY.
And that's at 17 point something.
Yeah, 17.033.
Okay. Well, 17th isn't top 10, but it's, I mean, if every team has two, you're talking about 64. So he's in the, he's up pretty high. Yeah, I'm not writing him off. I just, at some point, need to see something.
Yeah, that's one game. So
it's one game. I think I'm with you in that I'm more concerned with the snap counts than the production. Because
the snap counts tell you what they think of him. Whereas, like, the production in a game like this it's tough to tell on a one game sample size anyway. And then with the conditions of this game, it's even harder to get an evaluation.
Yeah, I would agree.
Other stuff from the defensive line, I thought it was like a nothing game from Jalen Carter. No, he had some really good plays. Like, it wasn't like a great performance by him. He didn't dominate on every snap like you want to see from a guy we've talked about who has all pro potential, but it wasn't a bad game either. There were some really good moments for him.
It seemed like he was doubled a lot. I don't know if you have stats on that, but yeah, I saw some good things. I think, maybe my expectations after the way last year started were too high. But again, it's one game. I think he's a really good player. You do kind of expect to see him dominate maybe a little more than he did Friday.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Again, the line and the field.
Yeah.
Jordan Davis got in the backfield in the first play of the game, and then that dried up a little bit.
Yeah.
And yeah, he's on my radar, certainly.
And that was a great snap for him. And I'm thinking, oh man, that's what they need from him. And then, man, I just didn't see him the rest of the game. It was a great play on the first snap.
Linebacker, man, Zach Bond was fun in that game.
Yeah, he was really good.
I don't think I gave him the appropriate credit after the game. We talked about him, but man, he was just so violent. He finished plays, but he also was like really good at navigating traffic, and like his eyes were good. He navigates traffic. He finds a way to get to the ball carrier. I was really impressed by him.
That's a good way to put it. You got to give Vic credit because day one of OTAs, they had him an off-ball linebacker. I remember standing out there on the field and we're like, what's he doing out there? I mean, it was obviously a role that they had in mind when they signed him. I don't think, he came in and they, an individual.
Well, I don't know if it was.
Day one of OTAs.
Yeah, but before that, like Vic said it. Vic said he wanted them at off ball. He liked him at off ball. But I don't think that's why they signed him. I think they signed him to be Andrew Van Ginkel and kind of rush off the edge. Now he's doing some rushing.
Yeah.
But as a line, like as an off ball, I don't know if this is why the front office signed him.
It's a great question.
I mean, the first press conference we talked to Zach Bond, he's telling us how excited he is to rush from the edge, how he finally feels like he found his home at that position in New Orleans the last year. And then he's an off-ball linebacker.
It's a question for Vic when we talk to him. I'm curious about it because he was terrific. And, we're so used to mediocre linebacker play around here. The third Eagle in franchise history, or since sacks became an official stat in 82, with 2 sacks in his first game as an Eagle. And the first guy was Reggie White, not surprisingly, week 5 of 85. He didn't play until week 5 because he was still property of the USFL, Memphis Showboats, and Eagles were negotiating with him because they had his territorial rights. The other guy was Orlando Scandrick. Can you come up with 2 more different names in Eagles lore than Reggie White and Orlando Scandrick? Scandrick only played 2 more games in his career after that. But yeah, he made a huge impression. And it wasn't just the sacks either. I mean, I think he was so active and, what do you have, 15 tackles?
No one else was even close.
Yeah. Blankenship might have had 7. No Eagles ever had 15, and tackles are not an official stat, but no Eagles ever been credited with 15 tackles and 2 sacks in a game. So it just tells you, and they needed every one of those tackles because there were a lot of missed ones out there. Which
he was guilty of one bad missed tackle.
I'm sorry?
He was guilty of one bad missed tackle.
He was. Yeah, he was.
Probably shouldn't have gotten him in the first place, but he's got to make that tackle.
Yeah, no doubt. But I think it's pretty clear he should be starting, and we'll see what happens with Nakobe and Devin White. What did you think of Nakobe when you rewatched the game?
I thought there was some good. I thought there was some bad.
Yeah.
And
I wonder if that's just going to be the way it is with him.
I think so. His best play was blowing up that screen. His worst play was he bit really hard on a play action, and then the pass went right over his head. He wasn't able to recover. Speaking of play action, I think that could, I forgot to mention this with the Eagles offense. I eventually want to see them use some play action under center stuff. That was a disaster in this game. I don't want them to throw it away just yet because I still think that can be beneficial to them, but it got off to a rough start.
Yeah, it did.
I don't know. With Nakobe, the things I think he's good at, he was good at. The things I think he's not good at, he was not good at.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, he had, I don't know, I didn't see the missed tackles stats yet. They're not up, but he had a couple bad ones, dropped that pick. He was in the right place, but I just wonder and he had a great camp, and it was only 1 game. He's still 23, so you don't want to get too carried away here. But I just wonder if this is just what he's going to be. Just a guy who makes some really, I mean, when he makes some real splash plays, but then he makes some plays that drive you crazy. And I don't know if you can, how much you can kind of go with that and make that part of your rotation.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it boils down to him, head of steam, running downhill, really fun, good player. Him backpedaling in coverage, especially at his size, without being able to really alter throws, I think that's where he's going to get in a little bit of trouble. And it was weird on the one play action, like he's so aggressive sometimes coming up to stuff the run. He just got a little over aggressive, and I think they targeted him with that, and they got him on it.
Yeah. Be interesting to see what happens. We don't know Devin White's status.
I would roll with these two guys, though, for now.
I mean, Devin White's almost the opposite in Jacoby, where we didn't see any splash plays, but we didn't see any real screw-ups either in camp. He just kind of was there.
If he's healthy, who do you go with next week? You, not Vic. Who you?
I probably go with Jacoby at least for another little period. I don't want to. Certainly wouldn't change after 1 week. Now you can make the case that an injury shouldn't strip him of his job, but he might have been stripped of it anyway. I'll stick with Jacoby for at least another couple weeks. I don't think he's bad. I think he had some bad plays, but I thought there was a lot to like. And again, you kind of take that field into consideration too.
Let me ask you another personnel question. We don't know Isaiah Rodgers' status. If he's not ready to go in week 2, what do you do at cornerback?
Well, if they feel Cooper DeJean's ready to handle the slot, which they might not. I mean, he played, 6 snaps? I think
it was 5.
5 or 6 snaps. He missed a lot of time. He's still behind. But the fact that he did play and got out there, he'll have a long week. Avante really had a tough time.
It wasn't just that he had a tough time. It was that they were really targeting him. I mean, they were going after him in this game.
So, I mean, you could play Quinyon Mitchell in the slot and move Keeley outside, which, I think Keeley had a good summer, but I just think you're more solid if Cooper DeJean is ready. I think he's ready mentally. It's just a matter of, is he ready? I mean, Avante played, I keep asking you snap questions. He played a ton of snaps.
60.
Almost all of them.
Yeah, 90%.
90%. Is Cooper DeJean ready for that physically? Just his conditioning. I just don't know. And
maybe not. I think Vic Fangio's been pretty honest about, Cooper's behind because he got hurt.
But also, I thought there was a chance he might be inactive, and he was up and did get on the field. So that's encouraging, and he's got a long week. The one thing you don't want is to start out with one group and have to change. You want to avoid that. Look, they got a lot of really good defensive backs, and I just don't think Avante, and I like Avante, and he's been a really good player. But that was rough. That was not the Avante we're used to seeing.
And look, it's also putting him in a tough spot, and I'm not giving him an excuse, but all summer, basically, you worked him at safety, and then the first game of the season, you throw him back out there at nickel. And look, I understand that's his role. He's got to be a backup at multiple spots. He's got to perform better. But, I mean, after day 3 of camp, pretty much all of his reps came at safety?
Yeah. I mean, he's played slot for years. So,
yeah, but not in this defense.
Not in this defense. What would you do?
If Isaiah Rodgers is not ready, I would play Quinyon inside on nickel, and I would have Keely Ringo outside for now. Eventually, I think Cooper DeJean will be ready for that. I don't think he's ready for that yet. Although this matchup is interesting because it's Ray McLeod mostly in the slot for Atlanta. He's kind of a smaller, shiftier player inside. That might be a little tough for Quinyon.
Yeah, I kind of
like it might be on paper a better matchup for Avante.
Yeah, on paper. I feel like Quinyon can handle anything. I was really impressed with him. We haven't talked about him yet. It's interesting. I think for me, it comes down to how ready is Cooper DeJean. If they feel like he can handle the workload, I would go in that direction. If not, I would go with Q outside and Keeley. Okay. But who knows? Maybe Isaiah Rodgers will be ready. We have no idea. They don't tell us this stuff.
I was really impressed by Quinyon Mitchell. Even from the beginning of that game, there were no jitters. He looks the part.
Yeah.
Just so encouraged by his performance.
I think that's what I said to, I guess it was Jaws I was sitting next to before we came on post game. I said, he doesn't carry himself like a rookie. He doesn't play like a rookie. He's got the confidence of a veteran. I think they really nailed that pick. And man, I love it. He's the quietest guy, but man, he's out there trash talking. It's so funny.
I wonder if he's gotten any new material.
He needs. I mean, all he says is like that rat was trash. That's like his line. I'm sure he'll just being around Slay. I think he would kind of pick up more material.
I don't think Slay's a trash talker.
I think he is.
I don't think he is. No.
I think he's. Well, I think he is.
Okay.
He talks all the time. CJ's a trash talker.
Well, yeah.
I mean, so being around those guys, I think Slay just like, he's going to like just make guys laugh. He's going to just be like, try to disarm them with humor. Maybe that's not trash talking, but I know he's vocal out there.
His rep on the flea flicker was unbelievable. He didn't bite even a millisecond on that. He kept his eyes in the backfield and he just had blanket coverage. That's where I think the ball was supposed to go.
Yeah.
And he didn't budge. He's still playing really well.
Yeah, he is. Yeah.
The two safeties, I thought CJ made some plays, he missed some plays, but overall it was good to see his physicality. He's an active player. He also got banged up in this game, came back in both times, had some toughness. It wasn't a perfect game from him, but I thought it was encouraging.
Yeah, he had a few missed tackles. I think he had 2 or 3. You worry about the injuries with him.
He explained some of those missed tackles in the locker room with some colorful language.
Pretty much everything he says is colorful language.
I can say it. I can't say the words he used, but I can tell the story because he did tell us to. He told me to report this. But Jeffrey Lurie was in the locker room standing next to Julian, and CJ. I'm talking to Reed Blankenship, and CJ will not stop talking to me and everyone else around about like he's already anticipating getting back on Twitter back in the States and reading comments from fans who are dragging him for his tackling. And he basically said in some colorful language, "You get out here and try to tackle A.J. Brown." And then he yells over and goes, "Jeff, right? Am I right?" And Jeff Lurie's just in the corner, just like smiling and like, "All right, sure."
That's funny. Funny stuff.
I think that's all I had. Anything else that really stuck out in this game for you?
No, I think we kind of covered it. It's always good to have a few days extra. And we got some extra time this week, which was good to kind of really break things down. But no, I think that covers just about everything on both sides of the ball.
How about early thoughts on the Falcons?
Yeah, they didn't look so great on Sunday. Gosh, the Eagles are like 6.5-point favorites, I believe. I think it's a game the Eagles should win pretty. I'd like to see them win a game like convincingly, 30-7.
Yeah, I don't think the Falcons are a bad team, but they didn't look good in this game.
They didn't look good.
Lost 18-10 to the Steelers.
The quarterback will turn the ball over. I don't think the Steelers are a very good team. Quarterback turns it over. They got some weapons. Bajan, you like, but I really like some of the matchups. We'll get more into the matchups on our next pod, but I really feel like it's a game I'd like to see the Eagles it's at home. They've had a long week. They're pretty healthy for the most part. I'd like to see them kind of go out and dominate.
Yeah, I think that's possible. Kirk Cousins didn't look like either he wasn't fully healthy or, he didn't look right.
No.
To me.
And what is he, like 0-50 in night games?
Yeah, you get him in a primetime game. That's not good for him.
Yeah, so it's going to be loud at the Link. It's going to be a great atmosphere. Monday night home opener. I guess technically, does this count as a home opener?
Oh.
I'm counting it.
Yeah, I think it should.
Can't count a game that's 5,000 miles away as a home opener.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think it's going to be a great atmosphere. It's going to be loud. And
Nick Foles gets honored.
Yeah, it'll be good to see Nick. And I can't wait.
Yeah, I didn't have to, but I watched a good bit of that Falcons game because it was on TV here before I finally gave up and went to Red Zone, which honestly didn't take that long.
Yeah, that's
I
what
was like all excited to watch football on Sunday, and then I turn on the one, and I'm not a huge red zone guy. I like to watch a full game, but
yeah.
when the games are just brutal, you go to the red zone.
I did the exact same thing. It's just a matter of when you're like, all right, it's 34-6. What am I doing here? And you go to red zone. I love what red zone does. I just have trouble. Like, oh wow, what a great play by the Titans. Oh wait, that was a Jaguar. Like, what? I'm just like, what's going on here? Oh wow, the Dolphins just scored. Oh, wait, it was the Seahawks. It's like I can't. My brain just doesn't work in that many directions at once. But it's,
I have to have the scoreboard in front of me.
Yeah, I always have NFL Jesus up in front of me on a game day. We get 2 straight Sundays we get to watch football.
Yeah, it's exciting. What did you see from the NFC East? I think the standings right now are how the season's going to end.
I was just looking at that. 6 of the last 7 years, there was 1-2 finish by the Eagles and Cowboys, one way or the other, and also like 9 of the last 13. I mean, it's like these 2 teams have been the class of the division, and they are again. And there's such a gap between the Eagles and Cowboys and the Giants and Commanders. I mean, the Giants might be the worst team in football. I guess Carolina might have a monopoly on that, but I mean, they are such a mess. And the combination of how bad the Giants were, how bad their quarterback was, and how good Saquon was, like that's a bad look for that organization. I've heard the media in New York is kind of tough. So yeah, I'm really curious to see how long they stick with Daniel Jones, because he's just awful. I mean, he just keeps going. He's regressing. He can't even run anymore. So, at least Washington was competitive, but they're just not ready to compete yet.
Yeah, I agree.
They'll be good before the Giants are good.
Yeah, and they're certainly better right now.
Yeah.
But right now the standings are Eagles, Cowboys, Commanders, Giants, and I think that's what it's going to be at the end of the year.
Dallas looked good. I thought that was going to be a close game.
They finally got their guy signed. It took longer than most normal teams, but they did it.
Cleveland's defense, I think it was number 1 in the league last year. Jim Schwartz. They look good. Zeke looked good. So yeah, Dak was fine. And defensively, they're pretty good. So I was, Deshaun Watson can't play, by the way.
It's a problem.
Can't play.
He's awful.
Did you see some of his? Somebody put a YouTube clip together. He was 0 for 10 on throws of 15 yards or more, which has never been done since that's been tracked. And somebody put a clip together of all 10 throws, and half of them, there was nobody within 5 yards. I don't know what they're going to do. I mean, that contract, I mean, what were they doing? What were they thinking?
Well, at the time, I didn't think it was awful. He was like, you did?
Well, he hadn't played in so long. There was so much.
We'll have to go back and see what you said about it at the time. I mean, he was no doubt top 10, probably top 5 quarterback his last year playing in Houston.
Yeah, I don't know, he hadn't played for so long. There was so much going on with the lawsuits and so much uncertainty around him. It just didn't feel right. But I don't know what they're going to do. I don't think you can't keep playing him, but can't get out of that contract. What's he got? 3 more years?
It's going to go down as one of the worst trades and contracts in NFL history.
Maybe the worst contract ever.
Yeah. I don't know why we're talking about the Browns so much. Let's you said Hall of Fame.
Dallas, who's in the division.
Yeah. So. Hall of Fame Senior Committee nominees?
Yeah, just a couple names real quick. Some former Eagles. Mike Quick is on that list. Harold Jackson, Timmy Brown, Jaws, Seth Joyner, Sean Landetta, who's out at training camp every day. I think he was the only guy who did the autographs, the autograph tent. But so there's almost 200 senior nominees. So they'll whittle it down again. A couple of them will get in. There's some good names on there, but out of the Eagles guys, I mean, I've always thought Seth was deserving, but he'll never get in just because, I mean, gosh, he had 50 sacks and 25 interceptions. I mean, nobody else has ever done that. But it's such a long shot to be seniors committee. If you don't get in your first shot, it's really, really hard just because there's so many numbers.
Yeah. Well, good luck to those guys. It'd be nice to get another Eagles Hall of Famer.
Yeah. I think JP will be the next one.
I think Kelsey would be the next one.
Who's that?
I think Kelsey would be the next one.
Well, they could be the same year, I guess.
Are you convinced Jason Peters isn't going to play football again?
Julio Jones is kind of out of those three. Like I don't think Julio's going to play again. Imagine if all three go in. I mean, I'm not sure. Out of those three, I guess Kelsey's the closest thing to a lock for first ballot.
Yeah, I mean Peters should be.
Yeah,
but I think Kelsey will be a lock
because he went out as an All-Pro. Peters has kind of extended his career and extended it. So, yeah, I'm going to go out there when Kelsey. Even if they don't send me, I'm going out there for Kelsey. Well, I'll probably be retired too, but
well, then you have some free time.
Yeah, I'll go out. I want to be there for that. His speech is going to be pretty historic.
If he can get through it.
Yeah.
We got questions here. eagle-eye@nbcuni.com. If you're watching on YouTube, you can you can scan the QR code and send us a question that way. First question today from Matt. Hi, guys. Why does the NFL make these long trips to London, Germany, or Brazil a quote-unquote home game for a team? Can it be an away game for both teams? I don't see how it would screw up the schedule since they aren't division games. Also, doesn't the NFL come across as a little hypocritical because they talk about being all about safety for players and then they add games and allow teams to play on substandard fields? Well, let's start with the first part there. There has to technically be a home and away team. Someone has to call the coin toss.
Someone has to get the home locker room. So, yeah, that's kind of just a whatever. As far as the second part, I kind of agree with that. And I think they do talk about safety. I don't think playing 17 and soon to be 18 games, most likely, is very safe. I don't think it is. I mean, they've gone from 14 through the 70s to 16 for a long time to 17. And they're going to be 18 soon. I don't like it. And yeah, I think it's too much.
Yeah, we know what it's about. It's the bottom line, and they're going to keep doing it. So,
yep.
Next question here from Pedro. This is Pedro, who is from Brazil. He's been in Europe. He said his trip's going well. My question to Dave: what is your opinion about the Brazilian fans and their love for sports? And which food did you like most from Brazil? The atmosphere I thought was really fun. It was like electric before the game. It was weird, obviously, because it's like you don't have a home team or away team really. So there was just like cheering the whole time. But people were really nice. They were friendly and were kind to me. So I appreciate that. Food I liked the most. That's a good question. I had a beef empanada, a little hot sauce in it from a street vendor. That was very good. I'd probably go with that.
Did he have a receipt?
He did not. I just paid for that one.
No. Oh, okay.
My question to Rube, as a music fan, have you ever heard a Brazilian song, Oi Musician?
I think I missed that one.
Okay.
I have the demo, but not the final version.
And then this is for both of us. Saquon is incredible, but don't you guys think that 26 carries per game are too much? I think we should involve Gainwell and Shipley to be a surprise factor. We talked about that a little bit.
24 carries, but yeah.
26 touches is what he meant. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think every week it's too much. I think for Friday with 10 days off or 9 days off, I don't have any problem with it.
Yeah. Want to do one more?
Yeah.
We had a bunch of questions about the field conditions and how much we're concerned about the edge rushers. We'll skip all those, but if you sent those questions in, we appreciate them. I think we talked about that quite a bit. Last question here from Bo, and we talked about this one a little bit too, but I think it's worth it. Question about the game. I don't think it would be a stretch to say that Zach Bond and Nakobe Dean were the most consistently solid defensive players for the entire 4 quarters. This presents an interesting dilemma for when Devin White returns. We all know what should happen. Bond and Dean stay starters, but do you think that will be the most likely outcome Does White's contract necessitate that he be a starter, even if he isn't as good as the other two? Howie doesn't seem to be the type to be happy when a big contract guy isn't getting big minutes, but it's not his call who's on the field.
Well, it partially is. I mean, I don't consider $7.5 million 1 year really big money.
For them, it is at the position.
Yeah, at that position, it is. But I wouldn't make any decisions based on that, and I don't think it's big enough to really mean he can't play or he can't sit. I mean, we talked about this. I'd go with Bond and Jacoby, if at least for the next few weeks. I'm a big Oren Burks fan, but I don't know if we'll see that. But I don't know. It's going to be really interesting. We don't know how long Devin White's going to be out. If we might see him at practice Thursday when we go out there. But it's going to be really interesting to see what Vic might even tell us tomorrow when we talk to him. He might give us the whole rundown.
He might. I think the Devin White thing is a little bit of a sticky situation. You have a guy who's a really prideful guy, came here to resurrect his career, former 5th overall pick. They paid him a little bit of money. He's on a group chat with two of the Eagles' 2 best players, and A.J. Brown and Jalen Hurts. I'm curious to see about like the locker room dynamic of all this, and if there end up being any issues because of it.
I think it's a fair question. Yeah, I mean he's a former Pro Bowler, like you said, very high first-round pick. He's got a reputation. I mean, the players really look up to him because of everything he's accomplished. He won a Super Bowl. So I think those are all fair questions, and it could be a little bit awkward.
Yeah. If you have a question, it's eagleeye@nbcuni.com. Rube, before we end this pod, I forgot to mention Dylan McMahon, the Eagles' 6th-round pick who had been on the practice squad. He got signed by the Los Angeles Rams to be on their 53-man roster. So the Eagles just lost one of their draft picks.
Yeah, we talked about it when it happened. I was surprised they cut him back in late August. Thought he had a good camp. I thought he had a good summer. They don't really have a backup center. I thought he was pretty good. I assumed they were going to keep him. I had him on my 53. I think it was one of the 2 guys I got wrong or 3 guys I got wrong. Yeah, I mean, you put a guy like that. He's the only draft pick from the last 2 drafts now who's not with the team, either on one list or another. Rams had like 4 O-linemen hurt. They had 1 suspended. They had another who didn't even play Sunday because he's hurt. So they have some real serious O-line problems. They needed some depth. Now they got to keep him on the 53 for 4 weeks. But look, it's Dylan McMahon. I don't get too crazy about it, but I thought they should have kept him.
Yeah, and to keep a guy like Darian Kennard over him on the roster, I understand that like a Kennard might help you more week to week, but it is a shame to lose a draft pick that I thought showed good signs and was worth developing.
Yeah, I agree. And it's not like them to do that.
Yeah, it does. Maybe there was a disconnect between what we were seeing on the field and what they saw.
I think that's the only thing I can imagine.
Because even when like late in camp, I was wondering why he wasn't getting more second team center reps. I thought he'd done enough to earn them, and they still have Brett Toth there. And right now they still have Nick Gates and Brett Toth on the practice squad. Gates was up for the first game as the backup center. So they can play, those 2 guys, and they can keep elevating one of them until they run out of elevations, and then they'll have to figure it out. But it's a shame to lose McMahon.
They can do that until the Rams get healthy on the O-line and cut Dylan McMahon, and they can re-sign him. Because
that could happen too.
I wouldn't be at all surprised if that does happen. We'll see.
All right, you got anything else to talk about?
Welcome back to the States.
Yeah, I did want to mention everyone. If a bunch of Brazilian fans of this podcast that I met down there was kind of crazy. So thank you to everyone down there for being so nice and making me feel so welcome. It was really nice.
That's great to hear. I do have one other thing that I forgot to mention. I lost my Twitter account in mid-July. I got hacked. I couldn't access it. I'm now back on Twitter. And so I already blocked 123 people today. Now I'm back on Twitter and happy to be there. And thanks everybody for being patient while we worked that all out.
Was it a little bit nice to not be on Twitter for that long?
It was.
Okay. If you enjoy the Eagle Eye podcast, please rate and subscribe wherever you get your pods. If you're watching on YouTube, please click the like button and subscribe there as well. That's it. We'll be back with you guys on Thursday. We're going to try to get in our normal rhythm here in this season. For Rube, I'm Dave. This has been Eagle Eye presented by Nissan. We'll talk to you soon.